And I got to ask you, Professor, what in the world is going on? From the Iranian perspective, has there been a deal? And is that 14-point plan released by I think it was Mir's news agency, is that really the 14 points?
So what has happened, to make a long... So, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. But what
Always
has
our
happened? Sorry,
pleasure.
it's like you're very kind. It's 2:41 a.m. So I hope I'm
Wow.
coherent.
Thank you.
No, no, it's my pleasure. What has happened basically is that there was progress until a couple of weeks ago, and then then Trump added these new demands, and things stopped. And then the Israeli regime bombed Beirut last time, and Iran retaliated. The United States, Trump's navy attacked Iran a number of times. Iran retaliated, and then the Qataris brought a message saying that the Americans withdrew those excessive demands. So we went back to where we were a couple of weeks earlier. Now, what happened this time round was that Netanyahu, we didn't have a deal today or yesterday, contrary to what Trump said and contrary to what the Pakistani prime minister said. So we were still stuck. There was stalemate. But Netanyahu, in his utter stupidity, he went and attacked Beirut.
Beirut again.
Exactly. And Iran said, we're going to retaliate. And Trump was desperate for this not to happen. I personally think it's because of the economic crisis, because of the approaching energy crisis, the approaching economic crisis. I think that's the issue, really. So Trump was desperate for Iran not to attack, because then it would have led to a long period of stalemate again. And so Iran stopped negotiating and said it's going to strike Israel. And then the Americans effectively accepted Iran's conditions. In other words, the stalemate was broken because Trump conceded those points. So the Israeli regime has to end the occupation and end the war in Lebanon, and of course on all fronts, which includes Gaza. But Lebanon is specifically stated they have to end the occupation of Lebanon, and also the siege on Iranian ports has to end immediately. And Iran will begin opening the Strait of Hormuz on Friday. So what the Israeli regime and what Trump has to do is now, but Iran will begin on Friday. So but if Netanyahu does not abide by the commitments, the Strait of Hormuz is not going to be open. So Netanyahu has put himself in a terrible situation by carrying out this act of murder alongside the genocide that's been ongoing. By carrying out this act of murder in Beirut, he has forced Trump to concede key concessions. And now he either obeys Trump and has to end the occupation and end the slaughter and lose, or he disobeys Trump and humiliates Trump and perpetuates the crisis, the economic and energy crisis, because Iran is not going to open the Strait of Hormuz
Okay,
unless the
so
other
that's a
side
really
carries out
important
its
question.
commitments.
Garrett, you can put those 14 points up there. First of all, just let me ask you if you're aware, is this the genuine text that President Trump is going to sign? The same one that's apparently coming out of Mayor News Agency. Is this accurate? Because the number one point says
This is my
permanent and immediate ceasefire of war on all fronts.
this is my cell phone. I really can't see
Oh, I
anything.
see.
It's too small.
Okay.
But
Sure, go ahead.
basically, it is what you and I and you and others, I'm sure, have been discussing for the last few weeks. In general, an end to the siege. But the only difference is that instead of a month from now, it begins now, and the end of the wars, and the Israelis must end the occupation of Lebanon, and um, they must remove they must give waivers for the sanctions on Iran's energy
Yeah, all
program,
the things that you
energy
said on our
exports.
show here lately.
Yeah, the same things. But
But
the
I'm sorry,
difference is that
there was one really big one that I hadn't seen there, and that is Gary. If you could roll up a little bit further so I can see it here on my screen. A little bit further up, Gary, if you could, please. I think it's number 4, possibly. Well, we can't get it up, but okay, he's rolling it up right now. Uh, right there, U.S. commitment. This is number 4. U.S. commitment to withdraw its forces from around Iran. That's the text that's written on here. That's different. That's additional to what we've discussed. Is that something that President Trump has agreed to?
I don't know all the details because no one is answering their phones at 2:46 a.m.
Fair point.
But for what I've been informed is that, again, we didn't have an agreement, contrary to what was being said in the media, and contrary to, I don't want to criticize the Pakistani prime minister, but contrary to what he said, there was no deal yesterday or today. The deal
Wow.
is literally the end of the negotiations literally ended like less than 2 hours ago. And what happened is that so those areas where there were differences between Iran and the US, and they were substantial. And they were substantial because today when I spoke to a couple of people, they were saying it's unclear how this is going to play out. But what Netanyahu did was it forced Trump to concede those issues. So the Zionists should be outraged with what Netanyahu has done. But again, it doesn't mean that this deal is going to be implemented. We don't know. It will
Yeah.
depend on Trump and Netanyahu, but Netanyahu in particular. But Netanyahu is in a terrible position because if he, as I said, if he obeys Trump and carries out his commitments, catastrophic defeat. If he disobeys Trump and refuses to carry out his commitments, he humiliates Trump, and Iran will not carry out its obligations because
And that's it. There's two. I know you're running short on time. There's two big important things I want to ask, and one is on the issue of because Israel, knowing how things are viewed in Iran, struck Hezbollah in northern Beirut specifically, and gave evacuation orders to 29 additional communities in southern Lebanon, which completely seems to violate everything. Like their plan is to continue going on. And my understanding from, I think, something you'd said and something other Iranian leaders had sent out on X, is that there was going to be a retaliation. They were going to retaliate, which you mentioned a minute ago. Now that apparently you're saying that Iran is going to not retaliate for that one, but if there is any more, is that restraint going to stay in place?
no. If the Israeli regime, we've already struck the Israeli regime, and we were preparing to strike again now. Iranian missiles were being prepared for launch. It was only because Trump accepted that the Israelis would retreat, that they would end the occupation, and they would end the killing. And Iran said, well, that is better than we striking, and then they strike, and then continue to bomb Lebanon. Because we'll hit them back again. We will have the upper hand in any exchange, no doubt about that. We showed that in the 12-day war, and we showed that a few days ago. But now that Trump has accepted that the regime will end occupation and it will stop slaughtering people, that is a bigger win. But again, if Netanyahu disobeys, then we're not going to carry out our commitments, and we will have to punish the regime too.
Okay,
but in any case, this is catastrophic for Netanyahu, and it's also very bad for Trump.
Right.
Because
that's the point I was about to make, because the other thing that's on there that Trump said, hell no chance at all. Just, I guess it was a week ago on Sunday, when he was asked, will you give any money up front, the release of frozen funds or the sanctions relief? And he said, nope, absolutely not. If they behave themselves later on, maybe they will. According to that text we just put up there a minute ago, at 12 billion of that 24 billion has to come up front, and then the other 12 has to come during the 60-day period. Is that part of the deal?
Yes, they will. The Iran will receive from again. I don't know the details because I only I haven't been speaking to anyone since, because this is just the last couple of hours, and so I don't know everything. What I do know is what I've told you already. But
Mhm.
they will, yes, Iran will be receiving I think $12 billion up front. It's own money. It's money that was
Right.
stolen and confiscated. But ultimately, in this period, all of Iran's assets have to be returned, which is roughly 25 billion dollars.
And what about this? It's clause in there that 300 billion of reconstruction costs, i.e., reparations, has to come from somewhere, or does it matter where? And is that a non-negotiable part?
I don't know the details of
You
that.
don't know
All,
that
but
part.
what I do know is that Iran will continue to be in control of the Strait of Hormuz, and it will be taking fees from ships. Whether it won't be a toll, because apparently that's
Right.
internationally according to international law, a problem. So it'll be a fee for insurance and security and for environmental protection, but it will be the same thing under a different name.
But as
And of
far as you
course,
know, President Trump has agreed to that. He signed a document, or will sign.
yes, but we don't trust Trump. We don't trust the Trump regime. And I don't think anyone on this planet does. I don't think the American people do. So we're not raising our expectations. But if he does not implement, we win. If he implements, we win. Either way, this is his retreat is going to be remembered, and Netanyahu's obedience or disobedience will be remembered.
Wow, that is quite a position. It is just hard to believe that on the 27th of February, Iran was still strategically in a much less powerful position as it had been before, and now that it is just completely reversed. If any version of this comes to pass, as you suggest here, it's just stunning, the reversal here. Wow. I mean, I we'll see what happens. I for myself, I'm incredibly skeptical that this gets to a signature on Friday. There's just so many ways this could go wrong, because I'm telling you, if that text comes out and just those subjects we just mentioned here come out, president is going to come under huge fire from his supporters on the inside of, how could you surrender to Iran, and you gave away, they won, etc. I mean, how can you argue with that interpretation? But I don't know how he's going to go back on everything he did. And I fear, we'll just see how this plays out, but I fear that he was so eager to get this deal today on his birthday, when this whole UFC fight's going on, so he could have a great moment. And then who knows, maybe tomorrow he again says, oh, Iran reneged on the deal. That's not what I agreed to, and whatever. So I fear that, because like you said, who can trust anything he says? But Professor, that's just the
Yeah,
world we
yeah.
live in right now.
Yeah, but we have to remember that the clock is ticking, and the economic crisis and the energy crisis is approaching. So, you know,
So, final question: is it
Trump
fair to
doesn't.
say that, from the Iranian perspective, if he signs it, that's great. If he doesn't sign it, you're still going to continue to fight, and you're still going to resist until, I
Oh,
don't know,
yes,
economics require it?
absolutely.
Well, listen, thank you so much. I'm really grateful for you coming on in the middle of the night like this, on this hugely important day, and I'm very, very grateful. Thank you.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you for having me.